Grimm's Fairy Tales, retold in one-syllable words, by Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm. Chapter 23. Rumpelstiltskin. There was once a miller who was as poor could be, but he had a daughter who was quite fair of face. One day he chanced to meet the king, and as he felt like boasting, he said, "I have a girl that can spin gold out of straw." The king said to him, "This is an art in which few have skill. If your child is as smart as you say, bring her to my castle in a day or two, and I will try what she can do." When the girl was brought to the king, he led her to a room that was full of straw, and gave her a wheel with which to spin. "Now go to work," he said. "If you do not spin all this straw into gold in one day, you shall die." With these words he shut the door and left her there. She could not see how she was to save her life, for she did not know how to spin gold out of straw. She thought a long time, and her fear and grief were so great that she wept. Then all at once the door opened, and in came a tiny dwarf. "Why do you weep, my poor child?" he asked.
"Oh," said the girl, "I have got to spin gold out of this straw, but I do not know how."
"What will you give me," asked the dwarf, "if I spin it for you?"
"My gold chain," said the girl.
The dwarf took the chain, and then sat down at the wheel. Whir, 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 3 times round went the wheel, and the spool was full. He put on another, and whir, 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 that one was full. And so on all through the night, till the straw was all gone, and all the spools full of gold. When the king came and saw it, he was glad, but his heart was full of greed for gold, and he took the girl to a room in which was more straw. "You must spin this, too, in one day," he said, "or lose your life." The girl was full of grief, but as she wept, the door opened, and in came the dwarf, who said, "What will you give me if I spin the straw into gold?"
"My ring," said the girl.
The dwarf took the ring and went to work. He spun all night, and then the straw was all changed to gold. The king was full of joy, but still wished for more gold. He led the girl to another room full of straw, and said, "All this you must spin to night. If you do so, I will make you my wife." When the girl was alone, the dwarf came for a third time, and asked, "What will you give me if I spin it for you?"
"I have nothing left to give you," said the girl.
"Then you will have to give me your first child when you are queen," he said. The girl said she would do so, and the dwarf set to work and soon spun the gold. When the king came and found all he wished for done, he was pleased, and made the girl his wife at once. In a year, by which time she had ceased to think of the dwarf, she had a child. But in a few days the dwarf came to her room and said, "Now give me what you said you would." In great fright, the queen said she would give him all her wealth if he would leave the child to her, but he said he would not. The queen wept and groaned so much at this that the dwarf at length felt sorry for her, so he said, "I will give you 3 days, and if in that time you find out my name, you shall keep your child." All night long the queen racked her brains for all the names she could think of, and when the dwarf came the next day, she told him a lot, but at each the dwarf said, "That is not my name." The next day when the dwarf came, she had more names, but to all he still said, "It is not my name." Then she sent out a man through the land to see if he could find names that she had not yet used. When he came back, he said, "I found no names, but as I came to a high hill near the edge of the wood, I saw a small house, in front of which burned a fire, and round this a small old man danced on one leg and sang, "Today I brew, and then I bake, tomorrow I shall the queen's child take. Oh, how glad I am that no one knows that Rumpelstiltskin is my name." When the queen heard this, she was full of joy. The dwarf came the next day and said, "Now, my lady queen, what is my name?" First she said, "Is it John?" "No," he said.
"Is it James?"
"No."
"Maybe it is Rumpelstiltskin."
"A witch told you! A witch told you!" he screamed, and stamped his foot so hard in the ground that he sank in up to his waist. Then in a great rage he took hold of his left leg with both hands to pull himself out, and pulled so hard that he tore himself in two. So that was the end of him, and the queen kept her child. End of chapter 23. Rumpelstiltskin.